So, yeah, Claude Sonnet 4.5 has been out for a bit now, right? And if you're anything like me, you've probably been messing with it way too much, just tossing random coding tasks at it to see what happens. And honestly, it's still got that lazy vibe sometimes. Like you never really know if it's about to go take a nap or stick with you. But you can actually feel it. Claude's running way longer now, powering through sessions that would have totally burned it out a few days ago. And yeah, here's the thing. What does that actually mean if you're a solo dev who leans on AI agents for coding? Like, are we really talking about set it and forget it territory? Can you just hand Claude a job and watch it run for hours? Maybe even finish it without you babysitting every step. You know what I mean? Let's break down what that actually means for folks like us because honestly, it's kind of wild to see where this is headed. Just real quick, I'm Daniel. I've been in the iOS trenches for 8 years now, started out freelancing, helping clients ship their ideas, learning the hard way what actually works and what just burns you out. But after Dub 25, I went all in on solo dev. Since then, I've shipped a bunch of my own apps, started building everything out in public, and lately, Crafters Lab is where I've been putting all my energy. It isn't just another tutorial site or Discord to scroll past. This is my real home base for solo devs who treat AI like a teammate, not just a vending machine. Every deep dive guide, app blueprint, design workflow, even the exact Notion team spaces I use daily, they're all live here. SwiftBrain, the full agents ops, and even my own playbook with real MD files. It's all finally in one place on a private indie first platform. If you want real systems, real code, and a real community for solo devs, not just another AI clone farm, that's what I'm building. And yeah, if you're a part of the Patreon crew, huge thanks. And heads up, everything's moving over to crafterslab.dev. So here's the headline everyone's talking about. Claude Sonnet 4.5 ran autonomously for 30 hours straight, building a full chat app about 11,000 lines of code without anyone stepping in to nudge it along. Now, on paper, that sounds both wild and maybe a little abstract. Because if you're in the trenches building swiftui apps or wrangling client projects, you know that AI runs forever isn't always the thing that moves. For most solo devs, what you want is flow. You want to start a task, hand off the boring stuff, maybe delegate a refactor, but you still want the final say. So I kept asking myself if Claude can work for 30 hours without burning out or losing the thread, how does that actually help me? Where's the crossover between these research runs and, say, my next indie project? Here's where it clicked. In practice, this level of autonomy isn't about setting Claude loose and coming back to a perfect finished app. It's about finally getting long horizon tasks off your plate. Imagine handing off those gnarly migrations, the multi-step refactors, or that just scaffold the crud for all 10 models job. And knowing Claude can just keep going, even if you step away for a whole weekend. It's a different mindset. Instead of babysitting your AI agent, you set up the initial goal, pointed at your context, your Claude.md, your project rules, your current plan, and let it run. Not just for a 10-minute code gen, but for the long, boring parts you'd normally dread. And honestly, that's the future I want. Not a robot writing entire apps on its own, but an agent who can just keep grinding even when my energy runs out. Okay, let's get real for a second. Most solo devs are not running AI agents for 30 hours straight on client projects. I'm not. You're probably not. And yeah, the first time I read about this, I was like, great, but how does this make my day easier? But here's the actual unlock. This is the first time a mainstream model has pushed beyond Copilot and into junior engineer who doesn't sleep territory. That means less context switching, less re-explaining what you want every time you open a session, and crucially, less mental friction for big boring tasks. Picture this. You spin up a fresh Claude code session, you drop in your latest Claude.md file, your updated rules, your weird bash scripts, all your indie project quirks. You lay out the plan step by step, maybe even with a checklist. Then you say, hey, Claude, take this as far as you can. Ping me when you need a human decision. Now, instead of cycling through 10 short bursts of code, check, correct, repeat, you can finally let the agent handle a multi-hour or multi-day flow. That's new. Before, you'd hit context window limits, or Claude would start to drift, or you'd just get tired of babysitting it. Now the game is different. You're the architect, Claude's the builder, and you actually have time to think, review, and ship features instead of being stuck in the micromanage loop. So, is it perfect? No. Are we going to unleash autonomous Claude on every single indie project from now on? Of course not. But the biggest pain in solo dev life is losing momentum on the hard, tedious work, long migrations, mass refactors, big test rewrites. If you can offload even half of that to an agent who won't burn out or get distracted, honestly, that's kind of a superpower. So here's the thing, this whole idea of a 30-hour Claude session, I mean, it sounds kind of magical, right? But let's be real, it doesn't mean you just dump your whole like roadmap into Claude and go binge a series while it builds your next app. You still need all your indie rituals dialed in. I'm talking Claude.md, your rules, your habits, because honestly, if the context isn't sharp, you're just going to end up with 30 hours of really enthusiastic chaos. You know what I mean? But yeah, something does actually shift here. It's wild. But for the first time, you can hand off a whole gnarly task like, hey, Claude, go rip out user defaults and rebuild it all in Swift data. Here's the plan. Here's how I like my code. Just run with it. And instead of having to babysit every step, you can actually let it run for a while, maybe go make lunch, maybe even check in a few hours later instead of every 10 minutes. It's like finally having that junior dev who doesn't need a coffee break every 5 seconds. But, and this is huge, checkpoints are everything now. If you don't build in review stops, if you just let Claude run wild for hours with no check-ins, it's going to veer off, start doing weird stuff, maybe build you something cool, maybe just totally miss the point. So, yeah, I still stop every so often, have Claude check its own work, give me a little summary, flag anything it's unsure about. Otherwise, cleanup is way more painful than just doing it myself. And look, this is where all that solo dev homework finally pays off. Claude.md, rules, even those little checklists you make at 2 a.m., they're kind of the secret sauce. If you treat Claude like a slot machine, yeah, you're going to be picking up pieces all weekend. But if you actually brief it, onboard it with your weird habits and style, it can run for days and still kind of sound like you. No joke. And oh, don't forget the risk part. Like if you're letting Claude loose on big migrations, batch edits, or anything that could blow up your project, please, dev container, strict permissions, the whole safe YOLO routine. The bigger the run, the bigger the potential for disaster. You've got to keep it boxed in at least a little. And honestly, the part that doesn't change, you're still the architect. You're still the person steering the ship. Claude can build, test, review, but those big calls, structure, direction, the stuff that actually makes your app yours, that's still on you. And I mean, that's the sweet spot, right? You want a teammate, not a runaway train. So yeah, it's wild. It's progress, but it's still indie dev life. You, your docs, and your favorite caffeinated beverage, trying to keep the AI on the rails. And yeah, that's kind of where I land with all of this. Claude might be running marathons now, but at the end of the day, it's still your taste, your weird little rituals, your indie sensibility that makes the build feel like yours. The AI is finally catching up, but honestly, the craft is still in our hands. So if you're experimenting with these long Claude sessions, or you hit a weird bug and need to vent, seriously, drop your story in the comments. I read them all, and half the time, your workflow hacks end up making my next video better. And hey, if you want the real deep dives, the stuff I don't post anywhere else, app blueprints, Notion setups, all my craziest workflows, Or if you just want to hang out with folks who get this solo dev grind, come check out crafterslab.dev. That's where the actual community lives. All right, keep building, keep refining, and don't forget, you're not on your own, even when it feels like you are. Peace.